here we are with our fifth phylum. We're going to be talking about Phylum Nematoda, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can get started. Okay, so Phylum Nematoda, I'm going to preface this note section by letting you know it is disgusting. And my cat is in here, so if you see a cat tail, that's my cat socks. Anyway, so it's a little bit gross. I'm sorry. Moving on. So Phylum Nematoda, a little bit of history. Their common name is the roundworms. So Platyhelminthes were the flatworms. These guys are the roundworms. They've been around for 400 million years. There are 15,000 species, so not as many as we saw with Platyhelminthes that had 20,000 different species, but still quite a few. That's a lot. Some can be free living, but most and all the ones that we're going to be talking about today are parasitic. So, yay. Some special structures and organs. They have a cuticle, which is on the outside of their skin, which allows them to live in harsh environments. If you're thinking about like living in really hot water, or living within someone's intestines or stomach that have high acid content or high pH, they really need that cuticle in order to help them survive. They have an excretory pore, which is where they excrete waste. They have a reproductive pore where they reproduce. So those two are kind of self-explanatory. They have a nerve ring. So this is moving up from that ganglia to now we're into a nerve ring. In our picture right here, you can see it's just a simple ring of nerves around the inside organs. There is a mouth, which we got a mouth in our last phylum. But now we finally have what we've been waiting for this entire time, an anus. We've got an anus. Yay, yay, the anus. So this is exciting news. We've finally made it to the anus. The body plan, we talked about this last phylum when we talked about how they were getting a little bit more complex. So bilateral symmetry is still a thing for this phylum, but now what we're moving into is something called a pseudocoelom. So last phylum was acoelom. This time it is a pseudocoelom. Pseudo, that word means false. So this is a false coelom, which really means that if we look at our picture, you can see this white ring around the inside. This is a little gap. There's an opening, like a cavity opening within the organism. So between the mesoderm, which is the muscle layer, and the endoderm, which is the gut, there's this open space cavity inside the organism's body. It's not completely full like the acoelom was. So they have a little bit more space for different organs, and that's why the difference between pseudocoelom and acoelom is that space. When we get into our next coelom, you'll see the big difference there. And then we'll talk about why that one's bad. Okay, so how do nematodes eat, move, and reproduce? So we're going to start off with how they eat, because some of them are free living. They can be predators, but the ones that we're going to talk about are parasites. So they live inside a host and feed off of them, blood, tissue, cells, whatever. How do they move? They have muscles lining the sides of their bodies, which they can contract and do like little snake whipping motions. Yeah, so that's always fun. And then how do they reproduce? This is the first organism that we have seen, that is that special word, and that's called dioecious. Di means two, so you have two words for two. We can either be bi or di. Di means two, and they have two separate sexes. So there will be worms, roundworms, nematodes, that are just male, and roundworms that are just female. And they have the separate sex organs. So the males will have the sperm and the females will have the eggs. It's not like Platyhelminthes, where they are hermaphrodites, where both of them have both. It's like all of them have all of it. It's not that way. So they only do sexual reproduction, and they have to go and find their mate, which sometimes can get very difficult for a worm. All right, so we're going to talk about our classes. There are 3 classes we're going to talk about, but in one of the classes, I'm going to give you 3 different worms that belong to that class, just because that's a very interesting class. All right, class number 1, class Enoplea. Enoplea. I know that they're all kind of really tricky to say. But this is the trichinella worm. It causes a disease called trichinosis because it's trichinella. So in all of these, I've really talked about how the infection happens rather than the worm specifically itself and like any special structures. So this infection is caused by eating cysts that form inside undercooked meat and muscle. Well, they form inside muscle, and then you can get the worm by eating undercooked meat. Does this happen a lot in the United States? No, because we have the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, and the other people that look after our meats, make sure they're cooked 100%, and that they're healthy animals before they're killed. But this does happen, so it's more to talk about. So the cysts, they're like little capsules inside the muscle cell. I didn't put a picture here, but Google it on the internet, you can see. They're little pockets, and the worm grows inside this pocket. And then if you eat it, the worm is inside there. It's undercooked. It's still alive. Yum. The worm would then grow inside your intestine and then just move to your muscles to form new cysts. I know that it causes a lot of muscle pain because when anything invades your muscle tissue, it hurts. So that's gross. Make sure you cook your meat. 165 for chicken, and then I think it's less for pork and beef. It's on the internet. The next class is class Caesarenetia. These are the filarial worms. They cause 2 different diseases. One is in people, and then the other one is in dogs and cats. Elephantitis, that is where your legs swell up because they're holding in water. And heartworms in dogs and cats, and we know that. That's why we give them those little treat medicines every month. I think it's every month. Fun fact, when I worked at a vet, I learned that you can treat dogs for heartworms and they can get better. It's just a really expensive treatment. But you can't treat cats. Like, you cannot treat cats for it. They don't take to the treatment, and it doesn't work. So if your cat gets heartworm, sorry. The heartworms and elephantitis filarial worms are transmitted via mosquitoes. The mosquitoes have the larvae inside their bodies. When they suck your blood, they transmit those to you. As you can see this picture, the worm is around a bunch of, all of these are blood cells. So you can see how small this worm is. It's not very big. All right, next. So this is my favorite class Chromadoria. This is where my favorite worms in this class are. These are all parasitic worms. They're all gross and I love them. So I'm going to start with pinworms and go this way. So pinworms are these, you can tell they're very small. That's a ruler underneath. They're really, really small. I've heard that they look like grains of rice. I've never seen them in person, so I just have to go off of what other people tell me. The way that you get them is you swallow or breathe in pinworm eggs, and this is where it's going to get gross. I'm going to get real gross with you guys. So children are more likely to have pinworms because pinworms live inside intestines, and the eggs are found around the anus of whoever is or whatever is infected with pinworms. So children, this is why I need to teach kids to wash their hands. So children will like scratch their butt because they're itchy, because they're like 4, you know, whatever, you know, they haven't processed. It's kind of gross. So they scratch their butt, and then we'll just like take their hand and like put them in their mouth, and then they're just like infected with pinworms. Or they'll touch other things that then other people will touch that will then infect them. I read somewhere that pinworms are actually super common. They don't really hurt, they just make your butthole itchy, so that's gross. They're really easy to get rid of. I think it's like an antibiotic treatment, and it's just like they leave. Yeah, it's fun. All right, next, hookworms. So I grabbed this picture off the internet. This is actually what their face looks like. It's a very close-up picture. There are hooks inside their mouth that they latch onto the inside of the intestines. That way they can feed off of blood and any other nutrients that's passing through the intestines. So that's fun. You get them by going into soil and having like open cuts in your feet or in anywhere, I guess, in your body. But they burrow into your skin from the soil. You can't tell because they're super small. If you look at the internet and look at pictures of like hookworm infections, there's like, it looks like a rash on people's feet. And that's how you can tell if you have hookworms. Again, these ones are super easy to get rid of. They've been around for a long time, so we figured it out by now. The last worm that we're going to talk about, I'm going to talk about it last because this is the worm that we would have dissected had we been in class and had we had the opportunity to. However, we're still going to watch a dissection over them and answer some questions, so don't think that you're getting out of that. This is the ascarid worm. It causes ascariosis. Yeah, my head's in the way, so I can't actually see my slide. Ascariosis. Yeah, it's gross. So you get this infection, this worm parasite, by getting eggs, ingesting eggs that pass through feces. And this could happen the same way that pinworms do. How somebody touches the feces, don't wash their hands, touch something, you touch it, ingest it. So that's just kind of the common path. It mostly affects dogs, but because dogs live in such close proximity to people, they usually intertransmit. It's gross. I know. It's really disgusting. And also, ascarid worms can be found. They've found that some of them kind of move to the eye and infect the inside of the eye. That was gross to look at, but kind of cool, but still like kind of really, really gross. And yeah, those are the 3 worms for this class that I want you to kind of focus on. All right. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Bye.